In Washington, a new announcement has added tension to an already complicated political landscape. The administration confirmed that nearly $8 billion in federal support for climate and energy projects across 16 states will no longer move forward. This decision was shared publicly by the director of the Office of Management and Budget, who noted that the Department of Energy will later provide more details about which projects are being halted. What makes the story especially striking is that many of these projects were located in states where federal support had been expected to play a major role in clean energy transitions and in regional economic development. At first glance, the announcement might seem like just another budget decision. But here's where the gap begins to open. Why now? And why these particular projects? Many of the states affected, California, Colorado, New York, Massachusetts, and others, had invested significant time in planning into renewable energy and infrastructure partnerships that depended heavily on federal grants. Officials in those states had anticipated progress in areas ranging from hydrogen development to carbon reduction. And suddenly, those plans faced deep uncertainty. The administration's public explanation framed the decision as part of a broader reassessment of funding priorities. Critics, however, argue that the timing and targeting raise far deeper questions. And this uncertainty isn't only about the billions being pulled back from climate initiatives. It's also tied to another move announced at the same time: a pause on roughly $18 billion in planned federal investment for major infrastructure projects in New York City, including the Hudson Tunnel and the 2nd Avenue subway extension. Transportation officials explained that these projects are now under review to ensure compliance with federal standards. The reviews, they added, will take longer than expected because of the ongoing government shutdown, which has furloughed some of the staff normally responsible for oversight. That detail highlights how the shutdown itself is creating ripple effects far beyond Washington, delaying projects meant to improve daily life for millions of commuters. This combination of cancellations and pauses leaves behind a strong sense of uncertainty. Supporters of the projects argue they weren't just about clean energy or subway tunnels. They represented commitments to jobs, to innovation, and to long-term growth. Without that funding, the questions grow louder. What happens to communities that were counting on this investment? What message does it send about national priorities? And how will state leaders respond now that their plans have been thrown into question? These are not questions with immediate answers, and that uncertainty keeps the story alive. If you find stories like this important to follow, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next update. Your support helps bring complex issues into clear focus and keeps you connected to developments that impact communities across the country. Returning to the unfolding events, it's important to notice how this story is being framed from different sides. Federal officials emphasize that these cancellations and pauses are necessary to ensure resources are being spent appropriately. State officials, by contrast, warn that the funding decisions will have long-term consequences on local economies and infrastructure. By repeating this contrast, the story pulls us back into the central question. Is this simply a matter of financial oversight, or does it reflect deeper political battles over priorities? The emotional weight comes from imagining the people directly affected. A city counting on transit improvements may now have to wait years longer. A community planning new energy facilities may see its hopes delayed indefinitely. For those on the ground, these decisions are not abstract. They mean changes in jobs, in timelines, and in opportunities that may or may not return. As the shutdown drags on, the larger picture becomes clearer. When government funding stops, the effects ripple into unexpected places. Climate projects stall. Infrastructure plans freeze, and ordinary citizens find themselves caught in the middle of decisions made far above them. What remains uncertain is how long these freezes will last, whether the projects can be revived, and what compromises will eventually be reached. That uncertainty itself keeps the narrative open. drawing us to keep watching for the next development. And so, we're left with an unfinished picture. Billions of dollars redirected or withheld. Projects in limbo. State leaders voicing concern, while federal officials stand by their reasoning. The gap between these perspectives creates the space where viewers are invited to think, to question, and to stay tuned. The story is not closed. The next chapter may reveal whether these cancellations are temporary roadblocks or lasting shifts in national policy. For now, all we can do is watch how the situation unfolds and consider what these decisions mean for the future of energy, infrastructure, and communities across the country.